Welcome into Steelers Talk. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today I'm answering your questions on the black and gold. On today's Steelers Talk live mailbag, we are filming this on Wednesday during the Steelers Talk live show. And if you want to get your questions on these mailbags every single week, you can join Coop and I at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Steelers Talk live shows, and you can get your questions submitted to have your voice heard right here on the channel. So do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now to join the most interactive Steelers YouTube community right here on the platform. And with that, I'll pause and open it up for questions, starting with Hot Rod 24. He says, Coop, Sperry, what's your Super Bowl prediction? We kind of addressed this earlier in the live show. Coop said he's taking the Kansas City Chiefs. For me, I got to take the Chiefs too, man. I mean, on paper, the 49ers should probably win this football game. They got more talent, especially at the wide receiver position. They got a really good defense. But you know what? Kansas City's defense, pretty darn good themselves. Chris Jones is going to be going after Brock Purdy, who's playing in his first ever Super Bowl. And then you got Patrick Mahomes, who it seems like Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce have been enough for him in terms of weapons this postseason run. And at the end of the day, man, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback that I have ever seen play the game of football. So for me, I'm going to go with Kansas City to win their second straight Super Bowl, the first time since the early 2000s for a team to repeat as champions in the National Football League. Then we got one from Ben Roethlisberger. He says, Kenny Pickett looked much improved the 1.5 games he played without Canada. I think he definitely deserves a chance with an offensive coordinator, and I think he will thrive next year. What do you think? So what I'll say about Kenny Pickett's 1.5 games without Matt Canada, the one game that he had completely completed was the game, was the game against the Bengals, and they had the 31st ranked defense in the National Football League. And then Mason Rudolph played the Bengals a couple weeks later and played better than Pickett did. So, I mean, I can't say that I'm too impressed with his performance in that game, especially because the offense only scored 16 points that game. Yes, they put up over 300 yards of offense, whatever, but they didn't get the ball in the end zone, and that's Kenny Pickett's biggest flaw to this point in his career, is that he can't get the ball in the end zone when they're in the red zone, and he just can't do it. The only way the Steelers score is if they run the football, it seems like. So, I mean, I just don't have the confidence in Kenny Pickett at this point. I think you can make an argument that he deserves another shot. I think you can make an argument Arthur Smith's offense fits his skill set nicely, but call me skeptical that he's going to be able to succeed in anyone's offense moving forward, but Arthur Smith's offense does give him the best shot. Then we got a $69 super chat from Kurgan Cold, one of our Black Diamonds. Doesn't submit a question, but we appreciate you, Kurgan. Thank you so much for that $69 super chat. Very nice. Everybody spam nice down there in the comment section for one of our Black Diamonds, Kurgan Cold. Thank you so much, my friend. A real one of the show. Steelers Talk legend coming in with that $69 super chat. Then we get to, I'll tell you what, man. And he says, what position, if any, do you think the Steelers will splurge on in free agency this year? This is actually a really good question. I think the answer is either going to be two things. Number one, wide receiver. Okay, if they want to trade Diontae Johnson because he's not a fit, you can save $10 million in cap space. And you add that to all the cuts and all the extensions and all the restructures, you're going to save quite a bit of money to maybe go get a T. Higgins or a Michael Pittman Jr. or a Mike Evans even, or Tyler Boyd if you want to save some money. I definitely think the Steelers are going to make at least one marquee signing in free agency at the wide receiver position. And if it's not wide receiver, I would say probably a cornerback, all right? Like L'Jarius Sneed, if Jaylen Johnson is made available. I think those are two positions that are considered premium positions, and that's where you want to spend your money if you're an NFL franchise. Now, you be the GM. Would you rather sign or draft a cornerback, not quarterback? Quarterback. Would you rather sign or draft a quarterback? Type S for sign or type D for draft. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pin comment. At some point during this video, YouTube's going to throw you an ad break. When that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know if you'd rather sign or draft a new quarterback in 2024. Then we got one from Steve Young here. He says there was a lot of buzz earlier around Tyler Boyd wanting to come to Pittsburgh. Could this still happen, and how would he fit in Arthur Smith's offense? So good question, Steve. And I think that it's still very viable. I think that he's affordable because he's only been a number 3 receiver in this league, even though I think he's got the talent to be a number 2. He's a good run blocker, which is exactly what Arthur Smith loves. And then another thing that I love about him is that he's got a great motor. He's always giving 100% effort. He's a great run blocker. And then number 3, he can play outside and inside, and that versatility is extremely valuable to me. I think Tyler Boyd would be a great fit, and he might still be my number 1 free agency target for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. Then we got Nevia Benson. He says, do you still think we get Justin Fields? I don't think that they're going to do it. Would I want them to do it? Hell yeah. I mean, I think that he's a great runner of the football, and then you match that with a super quarterback-friendly offense like Arthur Smith brings to the table. It's going to make the most out of his passing ability. He's got a great arm, good playmaking ability, and of course, he's got that elite rushing ability that nobody else at the position has. Not even Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, because Justin Fields, he can take ones to the house 60, 70 yards plus. Lamar Jackson doesn't have the long-term speed to be able to do that. Justin Fields does, which is a huge weapon at his disposal. And then at his size, I mean, he's a freaking unicorn, man. He really is. If you have the opportunity to get him, he's cheaper than Kenny Pickett in terms of cap space next year because you wouldn't be on the hook for the signing bonus that he signed with Chicago. So, I mean, if I'm Mike Tomlin, if I'm Omar Khan, and I have an opportunity to get Justin Fields, I am pulling that trigger because I think it would be the best thing for this organization. Now, before we get into the rest of this week's questions, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. If you want to make this year's Super Bowl viewing experience even more interesting for yourself, you can get started with our sponsor, Prize Picks, today. Prize Picks is a skill-based, real money, daily fantasy sports game. And if you're wondering how something like this works, here's how you play. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. And because I'm an optimist here, I'm going to take the more on Christian McCaffrey rush yards and then the more on receiving yards for both tight ends here, Travis Kelce and George Kittle. You can get your picks in now for Super Bowl 58 between the 49ers and Chiefs by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. With Prize Picks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. To get started right now, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. EV says Steelers, Pittsburgh should go after Chris Jones. No. Way too expensive, first of all. Steelers will not be able to afford him and other players, and unfortunately, I'll just say this, I don't think the Steelers need him. You got Larry Ogunjobi. You've got Keanu Benton, who's starting to bud into a star in this league, in my opinion. You still got Cam Hayward coming back next year. Now, if Captain Cam retired, maybe you think about going and getting Chris Jones. Right now, I think the interior of the defensive line is pretty darn solid. All right, I don't think you need Chris Jones, and especially at his price tag, which is going to be astronomical, I don't think it makes much sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers to consider Chris Jones at this juncture. Then we got one from Sheldon Bennett. It says, what do you think of Jackson Powers Johnson and Amarius and Taliese Fuaga, talking about him, being drafted by the Steelers? So listen, I would be fine with any of these guys being drafted by the Steelers. Taliese Fuaga has been balling out at the Senior Bowl this week. I mean, he is absolutely just pancaking people. And then you got Amarius Mims, another guy that can pancake people, very similar to Broderick Jones in terms of his overall build. And then Jackson Powers Johnson is arguably the most impressive player at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama this week. He's been incredible. And he's got the athleticism. He's got the strength. He's got the technique that you need from your starting center in a wide zone offense like Arthur Smith is bringing to Pittsburgh. And honestly, I think Jackson Powers Johnson is 100% worth a first-round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But let me know what you guys think. Down there in the comments section, would you draft Jackson Powers Johnson in round 1? Yes or no? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Then we got one from W. Repulse here, and he says, if A.J. Brown isn't available for trade, should the Steelers consider still trading DJ for a late first and sign Mike Evans to pair with Pickens? 100%! Yes! If you can get a first-round pick for Diontae Johnson, who has 1 year left on his contract and is not a good fit for this new system, yes, You take that and you draft another really good receiver with that pick. And then, with that extra $10 million in cap space, I would go out and get Mike Evans. I would go out and get a Michael Pittman Jr. I would go out and get a T. Higgins. I mean, how much would Bengals fans hate that if he was in a Steelers uniform? Oh, my goodness. I would love that. Yes, absolutely, W. Repulse. Even if you can't get A.J. Brown, I would still trade Diontae Johnson. Then we got one from Dominic here. Says, who is your most interesting signing that you would make if you were the manager of the Steelers this offseason? Interesting. I'll go with Russell Wilson. I'll go with Russell Wilson because this is why it's interesting. Okay? He has a clause in his contract with the Denver Broncos which would allow him to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers on the vet minimum, all right? $1.6 million and change. That's it. That's all the Steelers would have to pay. And the Broncos would still have to pay Russ almost $34 million in 2024. So Russ gets paid, and the Steelers save cap space on a guy that was top 10 in passer rating just last year. So I know it's not the most popular idea among Steelers fans right now, but I think that's because they don't understand that they can get Russell Wilson on the vet minimum. And if you can do that, that opens up so many more opportunities in free agency, via draft, even via trade. I mean, it just opens up so many great opportunities. And then Russell Wilson, somebody with his record in the playoffs, 4 fourth-quarter comebacks, 4 game-winning drives in the postseason. He's top 10 all-time in both of those categories in National Football League history. He's clutch in the playoffs. He's still top 10 in passer rating just last year. And you can get him for the vet minimum. That's the signing that I would make if I was Omar Khan. But pick a starter for me down there in the comment section. Would you go with Russell Wilson, type RW? Would you go with Justin Fields, type JF? Are you cool with sticking with Kenny Pickett, type KP? Or if you want to go with somebody else, type O. And then also let me know who would you rather start for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024. Then we got one from Offsides Edits. I love that profile picture, by the way. He says, do you think we can make Calvin Austin fit our scheme? So the answer to that question is yes, but not as a number 2 receiver, because usually Arthur Smith likes to have 2 receivers on the field, and he likes both of them to be big, really good run blockers, and both really good receivers in their own right? So Calvin Austin III does not fit that description. However, once they go to their 3-receiver, 4-receiver sets, Calvin Austin III becomes a valuable piece. Okay, somebody that's still a pretty decent route runner. He can take the top off of a defense, and then, he's still a really, really good punt return man. So Calvin Austin III is going to stick around. He's probably not going to play on early downs for the Pittsburgh Steelers this upcoming year, but he's still going to have a very valuable and very important role on this team. So don't worry about Calvin Austin III. Then we got one from Kevin the Elder God. And he says, we're hoping to fetch a first for DJ, but realistically, I don't think it would be logical. What you believe is more realistic return, like mid-second rounder. Yeah, so Kevin's right. All right, like I said, would I take a first-round pick for Diontae Johnson? Hell yes. But do I think we're going to get one? No. Okay, we're going to get like a second-round pick, maybe an early third-round pick for Diontae Johnson. All right, that's just the way it is. Now, I do think you could probably get a second for him, and that's what I think the bar should be for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're not getting rid of him unless it's a second-round pick, and I think that they'll get someone to bite on that. But I think Kevin's absolutely right here. It's probably not going to be a first-rounder, so if you're hoping it's going to be a first, I wouldn't hold my breath if I'm going to expect anything here. I think it's going to be a second-round pick in exchange for Diontae Johnson. All right, that'll be it for today's mailbag, man. But you know what? If you want a shout-out on a future edition of Steelers Talk, all you have to do is go to Twitter and give me a follow at Jack_Sperry. I'm putting a bunch of Steelers stuff on there every single day for you guys to enjoy. I got NFL Draft All 22 film breakdowns on there as well. Bunch of great stuff, and you get a shout-out on the show. So shout-out to Libster88, Desiree, Thomas, a bunch of gibberish, and Paul Mack. Thank you guys so much, and make sure you click that subscribe button. If you want to get your question on next week's Steelers Talk mailbag, make sure you tune in 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single Wednesday for the Steelers Talk live show, and join the most interactive Steelers community right here on the YouTube platform.